Hey, welcome back everyone. Rob here from Ram Studio Comics. So in today's video I want to talk to you about placing windows evenly using a little bit of technique for that. So I just wanted to show you some scribbles that I was working on, and this one actually, just by the way, was laying in the perspective grid first and then drawing this all freehand over top. So that's a method that David Finch teaches on his channel, and I gotta admit that was really fast. I think I did this in like half hour, 40 minutes. It's extreme. Feels like it takes longer to lay out the grid. Obviously it's pretty messy, but it's very effective. And I probably didn't need to be that messy. That's just the way I did it. But here, this is a very useful technique, and I actually picked this technique up off of the book by Scott Robertson. I'll make sure to link that in the description box below. And I'm going to show you the technique. It's really kind of neat. For placing windows correctly if you need to. You know, sometimes you're just going to eyeball it, right? So what I'll do is start with a horizon line. Get it centered here a little bit. And so just remember, your horizon line is where your eye level is in the scene. So if a guy was standing there looking, his eyes would be right here, or if you're looking this way, right? That's what we're looking at in the scene. That's your horizon line. I'm sure you know that, but might as well cover it. So I'll do a 2-point perspective. And this, you know, as far as vanishing points, people always ask where to place them. Just do it visually representative of what you want to see in your artwork. So if you start to draw something out and it doesn't look right, you know, keep your lines light and then change it. You know, so I'm just going to say that I want something that hits this area. Everything else would be vertical lines from this, you know, when you have a 2-point. Like this. So I give myself a couple vertical guides here. I'm just going to establish, I'll just do this one area. I don't want to take up too much of your time. I just want to show you the technique itself. And I believe on the book, it was page 33 of his book, How to Draw Environments from Your Imagination. Really great book. Again, I'll link to it, but it's I haven't made it very far through this book, but every time I get a ways through it, I'm just so glad that I took the time because it's such a great book. And he's got a fantastic YouTube channel as well. So say we have this area designated in a 2-point perspective. Maybe this is a bit extreme of an angle. Again, you're going to move these around based upon how extreme you want your angle to be. One thing I will say that I remember in one of David Finch's lessons that he mentioned is if you start getting your grids to where you start seeing more diamonds in the grid, then chances are you're a little too distorted in your, you know, your vanishing points. Okay, they're a little too close together, I guess. So just keep that in mind. But that's your grid. We're not really talking about grids here, but it was another good tip, so I figured I'd bring it up. So what we want to do here is evenly divide this. Now you can obviously start right here, and you can draw a window, and then you can crisscross and find center. So let me just show you what I'm talking about. You could draw a window area. You can crisscross and find center, right? Use your vanishing point to coincide through here. I'm just going to eyeball it. And then you go from here to the middle. And that will give you the proportionate difference of this here, okay? So that's neat. You know, you can work that all the way back. But it's just a different method, and it's a little bit more subject to change as you get to the very end, but it's very effective as well. So just remember that. You crisscross your corners, find center that corresponds to the vanishing point, go from this corner to this center, and that will give you this shape. Feels like it's a little off, but that's the way I remember the technique, and it does work. And you just keep doing that. So you bring your line here. Now the good thing is, with the vanishing point, this is actually pretty quick as well, so I might as well. And I've shown this on the channel, but I'll just do it again. Say it's something like that. I'm a little bit off there, but you know, and I don't feel like you have to do these to perfection anyways. I see people that do them freehand, they look great. And also, you got to figure it's still way better than you trying to just eyeball these areas, right? So look at that. You can easily put it right back that way. And you can use that across the top and everything. So it's just a really neat thing. Again, he does cover that in his book, Scott Robertson's book. So let me tighten up a little bit here. Okay, so again, I want to be able to proportionately designate some windows in this area. So let me erase this back so I don't get you confused here is what I'm trying to show you. So that's technique number one. Let's get those out of there. I feel like this is just too far back. I'm going to bring it to about here. Because another thing, and I'm guilty of this, this would be a very long building. Okay, so something like this, we'll say. So the trick is that you take the distance from, you're going to map the bottom of this, okay? And you're going to coincide with your horizon line here. Line that up. Even though I can't see it as well because I'm on the other side of the page here. I really need to be working off an angled art table. I'm actually looking at the screen more than I'm looking at my paper these days. Okay, so you go like this, right? You map this out, and you have to now align from this point to this to the horizon line. Okay, so just draw a line right through there. See, and I was able to get that pretty close right there. And here's where the other vanishing point is going to be. So this is how you kind of find, I'm going to skip it right there and go like that, okay? So why am I doing that, right? It looks weird. Like, what in the world? Is that a crazy looking shadow from this wall? No, it's, what I'm going to do is I'm going to divide this area, but then I'm going to map that to here with this vanishing point. You know, it seems weird like that. It doesn't even seem like that would work, but it does. So I'm going to use the ruler now. And figures it couldn't land on a nice even number for me. So I guess I could count these little dashes. I'm just going to divide this. Let's see, if I use the 1/2 inch mark, what would I get? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. It's pretty close. I'd get 13 divides, and I guess I could kind of center this. I know that's going to make the edges off a little bit, but again, I'm not looking for perfect mathematics here. Or is that even the right term? I don't know. Anyways, I'm not looking for perfection. Let me just put it that way. Me and perfection, we're not good buds anyways. All right, so something like this, right? You see it's a little off. But now I've got these divides, and now I'm going to take each one of these and go to the vanishing point that I've designated. And I know you're probably just thinking, man, this is going to take so long. Why would you do it like this? Trust me, folks. Just trust me. It's pretty cool. If nothing else, it's just cool to know. Let me put it this way. I don't know that I would use this every time, for sure. I wouldn't. But there are those types of building designs that if I don't want to fudge it and I don't want to manipulate it after the fact, or, whatever. It could be just a certain design that I really want to see into the artwork. But every time I go to draw it, I somehow mess up maybe the columns or the divides of a particular design. And then there's those other layouts and designs and buildings that you can easily just kind of fudge and maneuver things, right? So it's not, again, this isn't something you're going to use every time. I think it's always helpful to learn these techniques, learn these rules, if you want to call them that, and then you bend and break them as needed. So, but again, I don't know that every illustration you'd want to go here because it is a little more time consuming, right? But one of the neat things is generally the time that you spend in the preliminary build-up like we're doing here kind of pays dividends as you move forward because it picks up speed. So this part, it's kind of like, do I really got to do this? Yes, just do it. But then you'll see it'll go much faster. It'll be much easier for the next stage. Okay, so now we've got our divides, right? And so you're going to take where they meet here and draw a parallel line, vertical line, parallel to these lines is what I meant, the side walls. So just like this, give yourself these little tick marks, makes it easier. And then you could probably just, I'm going to turn the page just to make it a little easier. Sorry, it's going to be harder for you, I guess. Not too much. And then just draw up. And probably a touch darker as well, because you know I should have soft erased that, but you can use your darker lines. There we go. So now, you see the ends are a little off, and I kind of mentioned that. But look how close even the lines that I've designated are to what I showed you with the previous. So both examples work as far as going from here to center. And look at that, super close to that. Here to center. See that? So that's another way that you can kind of check that this is working. But these rules do work. Now the ends are wider. And the reason being is I recentered that area. I don't mind that because generally on the ends anyways, with a design like this, I'm going to add some kind of end cap. But now I've got this marker in the middle, this set of registration points, and I can set windows in there a lot more confidently. Okay, so I'm going to push this all back now and just kind of show you the way that I would do it. So, you know, these could be columns like I mentioned. I'll put a column here, pillar, column. I think they're columns when they're on a end cap to a building. So something like this. And then for here, I'm just going to put a divide, something a little thinner. I like adding lots of trim. The more trim you add, it seems like the better it tends to look. And then I'll just take, I can use my vanishing point for the bottom of the window. So let me do that. So I'm going to run a line here. And actually, I'm going to give myself a couple lines. I'm going to run a line here for kind of the squared off area of the window. And I'm going to put a round over. And I'll put one more line just to define where that's going to be. I could do more of a point if I wanted. Now I'll do an oval. So I'm rounding it over, and then I'll bring this straight down, back over, and I'll do the next one. So remember, this is our center point. This is our center point. Here's our window area. Now, another thing to think about is as you're working down, you can really, actually I need to thin this one out. Remember, this area was a bit wider. So you'll see it's more consistent from this point on, and I'll probably need to adjust that first one because, again, the distance was a little different. But anyways, the part I was going to say is you also want to think about recessing these back. So if you want this column, this pillar, whatever you want to call it, more forward, you're going to push this window back. It's the same concept. I'll show you when we do the depth. And these need to get thinner, right? So it's probably good to go down and do every one of these. Okay, and then put this here. Round over in this area. Another thing I noticed is you don't have to draw these perfect either. Now that you've got guides in place, it just starts to be easier to draw freehand. And I feel like I do need to tuck these behind that ledge. They're getting really thin. But I can tell you right now, if I didn't have these guides, I would be all over the place. No doubt. And another thing that I tend to notice by not doing this particular method is I'll place a lot less windows. Okay, and when you start studying architecture, you realize that there are a lot more windows than we like to draw when we're just going off our brain box. Me personally, maybe it's a sign that I'm really lazy. And then so now what I can do is just keep thinking about trim. So I could bring this out and I could run another line for this. I'll start with this window here. Put like a little bit of a ledge there. It's a little crooked there. And again, I've got my vanishing point to coincide with this information all the way down. I could even get the first little lip. reference point for that. And again, just so I'd go out, down, back, out, down, back, out, down, back, you know, and then I'd go back, I'd add a shadow. So it's just, you know, staging the work like this, but we've got those guides in place to start adding all sorts of little features. And that's where it really starts to make something look pretty cool and interesting, because you know, it's really easy to say, well, this looks good enough, I'm done. Well, that's not going to look very cool. You know, it's not going to give you a nice look. But if you say, all right, what if I added an angle and that kind of jetted out from this area here, and I get this nice little ledge here, maybe you see a little bit of the top right there. You see how that, you know, it's a pretty simple shape, but it does something for it. I don't know that I actually like that, but it's better than nothing. I would take that over nothing, but actually, if I could make that a little better, I think I would be happier guy. Let's see here real quick. There's a video. We're already at 16 minutes. This stuff, I'm just not that fast, folks. That's why people time lapse, just so you know. Okay, so, especially in art videos, right? You don't want to be like, well, in the next step, we're going to do this. What if I start talking like Eeyore? I wonder if anybody would listen to that. What if Eeyore was your teacher? Okay, so I'm just going to go right from this point down. It's basically the same shape. I'm just cleaning it up, and yeah, I'm just going to go simple with this, but sometimes simple works. And the same thing, over, up, back, whatever you got to do that feels comfortable and, you know, that you can repeat. But see how it just changes that shape really quickly? And there's all sorts of things. So, you know, you add a shadow here, all the way down, add a shadow here. Now on this one, I'm going to shadow this way. I'm going to push some depth back here, shadow there. You see how that does a lot for it? And it's all these little, and actually I should have finished my step here. I'm very ADD apparently, and I just jump off what I'm doing to something else. That's just kind of me. Easily distractible, let's just say it that way. I've never been clinically diagnosed, but I don't know, man, I get distracted pretty easy. It's because I have all these ideas in my head, though. They're just flying around, bouncing off each other. Okay, so again, back to the shadows in here. And then I think part of it too is like anything else, like when something gets far away, it's kind of harder to make out the details. So you could probably get a little bit messier back here, or you could just really grab the major components. So for instance, when I try to draw things off in the distance, I really just try to look at the shadows. You should try to look at the shadows anyways. Generally, it can make a lot more sense to just draw your shadows and not focus too heavily on lines, but I definitely think of that when I'm trying to draw things off in the distance. So again, shadow under here. And you could just keep taking that further and further. So you could put like another little ledge up here, another little shadow. You see this one, I'm not even drawing a line. Trying to speed up here a little bit for you. You see back here, they're going to get kind of a little off. No big deal. Maybe a couple quick divides right here. It's kind of some boring architecture I'm doing here, but I really just want to show you that by cutting into this stuff and adding these little details, you start to get a sense of scale, and it's not so boring and plain. Same thing in here. I would add at least one, maybe even two more ridges. But each time you're pushing back into the window. That's a big part of drawing windows on an angle is really recessing these areas like this back. Something you got to get used to. Again, back here, I don't know that you'd see much of this. I still have to try to get a little bit of that in there. But yeah, it's kind of hard to make out. And then let me just do cross section. In the cross section, I'm going to put really close to this edge of the window. Because again, it makes sense that we're, the center line of this is getting moved back. And maybe to this point, we would just start seeing this bar, and then even that would fade off. Okay? So, yeah, that's really it. I mean, I could keep going, but hopefully this gives you the idea. The main thing I want to show you is the ways to divide the windows evenly, which it takes practice, and I'm just now starting this technique. I'll get better at it, I promise. And then you would just build out from here. And just remember, shapes on top of shapes. These are all really basic, primitive shapes, right? I mean, I should have took this further, but it's pretty boring stuff. But it gives a sense of detail a little bit. But this way of measuring is just fantastic. Oh, and keep in mind, so you're doing an upshot, you just flip it over. You literally can turn your page around and work down using the same technique. Remember the two, at least the way that I did, the vanishing points are crisscrossing, but you're mapping from the very end to the very end of where you want to measure, back to the vanishing point that you created that coincides, right? And then you make your measurements along this flat plane, map that to here, draw vertically up, and there you go. You got your divides, and there's your windows. And yeah, I probably could have did a little better, but hey, you try walking and chewing gum. It's not easy. Drawing and talking at the same time, it's tough, folks. It's really not that easy. Okay, so thank you very much for tuning in. Hopefully you've enjoyed today's video. I'd love to know what you think, as well as, if you got any other questions for new content, let me know. And be sure to check out David Finch's channel for his perspective art, and then Scott Robertson for his. Both fantastic instructors. We're very fortunate to have them making content. So more on the way real soon. As always, keep drawing, keep having fun, and bye for now.